Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to, is this 77 or 76?
76.
Welcome to episode 76 of The Clutch Dump. I'm Nicholas Patty. Ben Walther sits across. I'm in Dallas. I saw some camouflaged Porsches, and the Steelers won last night. So it is a good day in Dallas. I'm here for Mecum. So stay tuned because there's going to be some cool cars. We're going to talk about a few of the cool cars I got to see today just in setup. We got a new episode of Two Car Garage, and let me tell you, Ben went overboard with making sure that it was very specific.
Yes, and then I forgot to pick cars.
And if you haven't, you might want to go back and watch our most recent episode about the Goodwood Revival. Ben went through while I was on a bit of a hiatus and covered everything you need to know. But some of that information in that Goodwood episode might be pertinent. And by might, that's called foreshadowing. It will be.
It will be. This will make more sense.
Two-car garage. So, Ben, do you want to set the stage for our two-car garage?
Oh, I would be absolutely delighted to. So we're back with another edition of our favorite game of Two Car Garage. And this week's Two Car Garage. You were a dapper young man in his mid-20s with a sharp sense of style that pays homage to the golden eras of the 1940s, 50s, and 60s.
I'm him.
Basically Nick Patty. You decided that merely attending the Goodwood Revival is not enough. You have to race in the Revival this year. You decide that you need a pair of vehicles to properly attend the event, because you can't go with just one.
No, of course not.
The first is, of course, your racing car. If you're going to race in the Revival, you need a racing car. You decide to participate in the extraordinary St. Mary's Trophy. That's just personally my favorite one. Find a 50s or 60s saloon, that's loosely saloon, car to race in the St. Mary's. The second car is the one that you will use to arrive at the Revival. That was phrased poorly on my behalf. It must be no newer than 1968, and it must be a manual because, once again, you are a man of taste. Then this is where it gets complicated. The combined value of your two-car garage may not exceed $300,000. That's not ridiculous. The combined cylinder count of your two-car garage may not exceed 10 cylinders, and the two cars
can't have two V8s,
which means you can't have two V8s, which is why I did that. And the two cars' engines must be located in different places, i.e. one front-engined and one mid-engined, one rear-engined, one mid-engined, whatever, blah, 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 etc., etc. Use current auction sites to find your results, etc., etc. The usual rules apply from there. Mr. Patty, please take it away. What is your first car? I'll let you decide race car or road car.
So I'm going to do road car because
Okay.
if it was at Goodwood, my darling wife Shelby would be dressed to the nines as a 1940s like World War II factory worker, like hair up, the whole shebang. It'd be super cute, and she would pull up in our Reuter Cabriolet, 1952 356 Pre-A 1500S cab.
Fantastic.
This car is gorgeous. It's in strawberry red with the steel wheels and the strawberry red line around the barrel. It is stunning. And if you've done a clutched up deep dive, you'll know I am a slut for 356A or earlier 356s.
They're the good ones.
They're the best. And I just could imagine the hair in the wind pulling up as I'm getting ready to race in the St. Mary's Trophy.
That is fantastic.
Of dreams.
Our road cars are actually much more similar than I thought. Well, they're actually not terribly similar, but...
Well, what's funny is I think, which, by the way, of the $300,000 budget, this used $245,000 of it.
I think I think that one car is more expensive than both of mine.
The funny thing is I think it's...
I'm less than 100 across both.
I think the 356 is the only 1950s Porsche that you can get that isn't $1 million. So,
yeah.
Yeah.
Also, because I think it was like the only road car Porsche made in the 1950s for normal people.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was the 356 and then race cars. That was it. Okay.
What's your road car? Let's go road, like for like.
My road car is a 1967, going right to the end of our allotted age, A 1967 Porsche
Oh,
912.
I love it.
Hold up. With a 2.7 liter flat six.
What color?
It's like a dark navy blue with silver stripes.
Probably Albert blue.
Yes, and silver Fuchs. It is a 1967 912 that is built as a 911R tribute. I don't really care for the R 911R tribute part. I just think it looks rad. Like, it looks super cool. If you didn't tell me it was a 911R tribute, I wouldn't have put those two together.
Sure.
But it looks fantastic.
Hell yeah.
Okay, so you went rear-engined with 4 cylinders. I went to rear-engined with 6 cylinders, which means our race cars have to be non-rear-engined. Yours with at most 6, mine with at most 4 cylinders.
Mm-hmm. Do you have any guesses as to what mine is?
I actually have zero clue. This is the one I didn't know. I assumed one of two things was going to happen. Your road car was going to be either a 356 or an E-Type, because those are the two cars you want to take to the revival.
Yeah.
Okay.
So this car is 50,000 quid, which maxes my budget out. Like, that is,
You're squeaking in there.
I am just
356s are not getting any cheaper.
Well, not when they're Reuter cabs either.
Right.
So when I say this, you're gonna facepalm. You're gonna be like, "Mother!" I knew he was gonna pick that.
Okay.
Because it is the best car in all of Goodwood. Yes, I mean over your 250 GTOs. Yes, I mean over your GT40s. This car puts it all to shame. I'm talking about a 1965 FIA Lotus Cortina, baby.
Oh, that's so good.
Yes.
That's a good. I didn't even think about a Cortina. That is a fantastic pick.
Thank you.
That's
really proud.
Well done, sir. You have officially won this challenge. Well done.
My wife is sitting on the berm in her 356 looking for me. I'll be hammering sideways
through every single corner.
Yeah.
That is fantastic. Well, my race car is actually far less entertaining. However, possibly equally as fun is my race car is a FIA prepped 1963 Mini Cooper.
Okay, so yeah, that doesn't surprise me at all, actually.
Yeah. So, dude, I didn't think about Lotus Cortina. That is a good pick. That is
funny.
That is well done.
Is I was sitting there and I already knew. I was like, oh, I'm doing a Lotus Cortina. Like, no shot.
Is it a Mark 1 or a Mark 2 Cortina?
Mark 1. So I'm looking for Cortinas, right? I'm like,
yeah,
50 grand? Huh. It's like, that leaves me a lot of budget. And then I was like, wait a minute. It's got to be rear end. I'm not kidding you. I didn't even think of a 911. Like, didn't even cross my mind. I got to have a rear engine, manual, 50s or 60s car.
So I thought about
engine. And I couldn't think of the 911, so I had 356.
So originally, before I told you that I had written the two-car garage, I had the max date written in 1965. And then, well, I had it at 65 just because that's just the number that I picked off the top of my head. And then I started to look at cars because, by the way, I went and when I wrote this, heads up for the audience, I cheated. I went and found my two cars before I told Nick that I had written the two-car garage. And I couldn't find a 911 that fit my budget in that. By the way, 901s and first-year 911s are very expensive.
Very.
So I was like, 1968 for no particular reason.
Yeah, I'm sure I could have found a like driver condition soft window Targa 911.
Mm-hmm. Dude, Cortinas look so good. Okay, did you use collecting cars?
I put the links in the
okay.
So story time. Not that anybody asked, but the car I was going to inherit before it became the Turbo Cup, and I'm not lying to you, I would honestly.
Oh, so good.
I'd be split as to whether or not I'd take it over the Turbo Cup. Was one of 33 that were imported to Canada. 1967, first half of 1967, Lotus Cortina Mark II with the twin cam, the 1600cc. And for all of my English Lotus fans out there, I make the denomination or the distinction between first half versus second half of the year. Second half of the year is when they were all built completely, start to finish, in-house by Ford. First half was the last Cortina that went through the Hethel Lotus factory, period. Huh. And you got a different interior, and you got Lotus badging on it. So 67, after, I think it's April, it was only badged Ford, so it became the Ford Cortina, obviously, then the Ford Escort. And it had a different dash, but the pre-April 67 Cortinas had the really cool oil pressure, water pressure gauges, all that, and a little pop-up in the center of the dash.
Oh, that's rad.
That was super sick. And I remember we got ours, it was in the Alpine green with the optional Dunlop 15-inch wheels. Dude, that thing, my dad had the entire inside reupholstered to the original specs, the roof liner, all this stuff. That car pulled 4-speed on the floor. Oh, such a good car. But anyways.
So, Nick, in the notes, I put 2 links. The bottom one is the 912 that I picked, but the top one is another car that I found that I thought about picking, but it's not appropriate for the St. Mary's Trophy.
Okay.
It's a 1967 Matra Sports Jet 6.
Yeah.
Which is super cool because I have a fascination with incredibly tiny hand-built European sports cars. I don't know why.
So what's funny is before I found the Cortina, I saw Elan's, and then that's what was like, shit, Cortina. So then I went and looked at the Cortina, but an Elan probably would have been my.
Oh, dude, I didn't even think about an Elan. Oh my, I'd do this challenge.
It's not a St. Mary's car.
Yeah, true. That's the problem. Is I thought of I found a bunch of old race cars, and I was like, yeah, but that goes into this race over here and whatever. Yep. Yeah. So, if you're curious as to what the differences are in those races, you should go listen to episode 75 because I explain it.
Please do. Ben picked up the clutch dump on his shoulders and carried it through the Alps.
I did. Okay. Well, that concludes this week's episode of Two Car Garage. However, we do have some other things to talk about. Many Porsches, Nick. Many Porsches.
Yeah, so before we dive into all this, make sure to follow us on social media. On Instagram at The Clutch Dump. I've deleted Instagram, so Ben's just running it.
Yeah, I hope all of y'all are enjoying just the constant stream of Nick Patty slander that you've been having for the past week.
Yeah, I've seen my wife repost it. It's great.
That's all it is, yeah.
So make sure to follow us there. And then if you're listening, feel free to subscribe, like the episode, leave a rating. And if you're on YouTube, hello, make sure to subscribe, ring that notification bell. So there's been a lot going on. And I'm going to give some details, some info. And then I'm going to want Ben's feedback. Because if I don't, this could be very quickly me just rambling. So, last minute of hotel coffee before we dive in. So, ladies and gentlemen, if you're a Porsche fan, come here. No, come here closer. Sit down. Thank you, Ben. So, I have seen some prototypes. So, let's rewind. Last week, I'm driving home from work, and I see, as I'm about to turn into my neighborhood, right? I'm driving my little creaky, squeaky Cayman.
Mm-hmm.
And coming the other way, I see a Porsche. I'm like, oh, fellow Porsche person, yay! And then as they get closer, I see a second one behind it. And I'm like, oh. And then I see a third one behind it. And I'm like, oh. Is this a Porsche rally?
Yeah, because 2 is some buddies hanging out getting a beer. 3 is a club.
Exactly. So, well, unless it's not. So, as they pull up, and it's like in slow motion, right? Because I'm turning into my turn lane, and I turn and look as I'm driving, and I'm just picking up all these details, and I wrote them down when I got home. Not that I needed it, but I have seen, and then the next morning, I'm driving to work. I saw, and I counted 7. I have a 30-minute commute. 7 test mules for Porsche. And I was like, I know I can't guarantee that 3 of those weren't the 3 from the previous night, but even then,
right.
4 new ones. So we got to talk, guys, because Porsche is coming up with some sick stuff down the pipe. So a couple of the test cars were turbo cabriolets.
Okay.
They had some like very minor bodywork differences.
Okay.
A lot of tape and measuring equipment,
Right. A lot of body cladding going on.
but off the rear only.
Okay.
So that's one, and I only bring that up because what I think that's testing. So, if a manufacturer is testing a car that's already been released, then it's something, and with minimal camouflage, it's something internal, which would be engine, electrical, or drivetrain that they're testing. Right. That they're not worried about somebody seeing the car by the naked eye. And the minimal changes were to particular parts of the car that would influence the engine. So
right.
This is where it gets interesting. So then, in between the two turbo cabriolets, and in heavier camouflage, is a 911 coupe.
Okay.
With, I would say on a scale of 10, a front end that's about on a 5 in terms of different. And on the rear, I'm talking like an 8.
Jesus.
No wings.
Like,
so
no wings as in no GT wings, or no wings as in like no turbo wings?
None.
None. Okay. Like, standard Carrera.
Or slash GT3 Touring. Slash SP.
Okay.
So, it had center locks. Here's the interesting thing.
It's a GT product. Okay.
I have a couple ideas as to what it was.
Okay.
Ben, I don't know if there's a way to bookmark this episode on YouTube or just pump the SEO full of Porsche, because I want to come back to this episode and maybe we could even cut a clip in of this part when this stuff gets released and see how close or how far we were. And
yeah, absolutely.
After listening, feel free to drop a comment and let us know what you think these cars might be. So the coupe, which is what I'm more interested in, the front end. Everybody picture a 911 in your head. You have the radiators in the front. So, Ben, you know how it has the center lower valence intake and then has the two larger radiator inlets in the corner under the headlights?
Yes.
So take those, and so I'm trying to think of how to explain this best. If you were to look at the car from the top down, the front would be a pretty consistent even arc, right? All the way around the front. Imagine where those radiator inlets are, it being squared, where the square of the radiator inlet on the top, when the rest of the bumper curves around, protrudes out.
Oh, cool.
And it was more squared. So rather than it being like the same level and size as that lower front intake, these are bigger, more square, and they stick out from the front bumper. On top of that, the rear, dude, oh, it's hot. The rear has a totally different diffuser, different rear bumper, and, drum roll, an exhaust that is not the 911, not the GT3, but very reminiscent of the GTS/T exhaust, where it was center exit but spread out.
Oh, right. Okay, it's the center exit, but there's like 6 or 8 inches in between the two pipes?
Yes.
Okay.
And it had center locks. So I have a couple... I have two that really...
What weird Frankenstein is that?
I don't know if the testing of the turbo cabriolet drivetrain power plant was related to the car in the center.
I'm going to assume that the cab is a prototype 992.2 of some sort.
Okay, so here's the thing. We have a 992 cab, we have a 992 turbo, we have a 992 turbo cab. So I don't think it's a cab. I think we're getting one of two vehicles. I think we're getting a brand new 911T, which for our listeners is turbocharged, and it's supposed to be like the baby brother to the GT3 Touring. You didn't want the full all-out performance of the GT3. You don't want to pay money for the 4-liter NA that revs out to 9K.
Right.
Stripped down, pared down, a little bit more lightweight, and it looks like a regular 911. So that's my first.
Like the current Carrera T or different?
Similar to the current one.
Okay.
Yeah, but just 992 generation, because we don't have a 992 Carrera T.
Yeah, we do.
We do?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, well then... this makes my second idea a lot more likely.
Yep.
So, my second idea, Ben, are you ready? Because it's a car that I've never thought that we might need.
Mm-hmm.
I think we're going to get a GT2 Touring. I think I saw it.
You know what? I when you started talking and you said no wings like GT3 Touring, and then you said weird exhaust, my mind went GT2 Touring.
So I'm thinking we're either getting a 992.2 T, or with the extensive turbocharged power plant testing, road testing, it's got to be something turbocharged, but that's tweaked, more power, improved, next generation.
Could be.
And with the increased air intake inlets on the front, I think it's realistically a 992.2 T. I think that's more likely.
Right. So
but I'd love to know. So there's that. And then we can come back to it in just a sec. And then I saw a Porsche SUV that looks a lot like the EV that Lotus just revealed in terms of overall shape.
Okay.
But Macan size with the Cayenne coupe roofline.
Okay.
Roofline. So I think realistically it's a Macan, either Macan EV. Or,
yes, because they did say that the next Macan is going to be EV only.
And it's the Macan EV, but like a Macan coupe.
Right. Yeah.
Last but not least, and arguably the most significant, and I actually got like heart palpitations when I saw it, I have seen the all EV Boxster because it was heavily camouflaged.
That is rad.
Mid-engine, soft top, with the Porsche like group. Which not to mention, all of them are black, and it's sexy as hell.
Yeah, that's pretty cool.
Like, you see a mob of camoed test Porsches in black with those
pretty sick
dot LEDs on the front. I just was like, oh. And so if people are wondering, I'm in Maricopa, and apparently there's a massive Volkswagen test facility 10 minutes from us.
That doesn't surprise me, but yeah.
There's a VW, a Tesla, and another auto manufacturer, Lucid. They all have
sick
facilities down here. So
that makes sense. So you got to do warm weather testing somewhere.
So anyways, I would love to hear your thoughts because I'm honestly getting a dry throat and I have no water. So
okay, so the Macan Coupe we knew was coming.
Well, we knew we were getting an EV. Did we know?
We knew we were getting an EV, and they made a Cayenne and then a Cayenne Coupe, so it made sense that they'd make a Macan Coupe. That made sense. Kind of following the BMW trend, because BMW was like X6 and then X6M Coupe, and now they make an X4M Coupe. So it's not surprising that the baby one was going to get a coupe. Whether that's like the final edition of the current Macan, or if it's just the fancy one that they're going to launch when they go EV.
Right.
Don't know. As far as the 911s, the cabs are probably... Okay, so here's the thing. All of the 911s that you saw are almost certainly all 992.2. They almost have to be, because...
the 992's now been out for, what, 3 years?
4 years. The 992 came out... The first year you could buy a 992 was a 2019 model year.
Right.
So we should be getting a 992.2 imminently, probably.
Because it's road testing and it wasn't completely camoed, so it was probably
right.
Final.
So we should be getting the debut of a 992.2 sometime late 23, early 2024.
Yeah.
For a 2025 model year would make sense, because the 991.1 was around for 5 years.
Okay.
So it makes sense that we would get 5 years of 992.1. So I would assume, blanket statement, all the 911s you saw were 992.2s, which is super cool.
It's an upgrade from the 992.1.
Yeah.
Dude, the end on it looked so menacing.
Looked rad.
You have everything curved, and then those radiator inlets coming out and square, and it's just like, oh shit.
Nick, do you have your phone on you?
I do.
Okay, perfect. I'm going to send you a picture of a current Carrera T.
Okay.
I want you to let me know how different the front ends look.
It must not be that dissimilar because from the regular 911, because I don't remember seeing a Carrera T.
So the Carrera T came out like right before the ST did, so it kind of got forgotten. And the Carrera T is a spot between the standard Carrera and the GTS.
Right. I know the T is like my favorite line or model in the Porsche lineup.
Right. So it's actually weird because on Porsche's website, the Carrera T. So for starters, Carrera T starts at $124,900. Which, if you think that's a shit ton of money, the standard Carrera starts at $114,400. So 911s just are expensive now. It's actually quite funny though, because the 0 to 60 time for a Carrera T is slower than a standard Carrera.
Right.
Because the Carrera T's, I think the numbers are all manual, whereas the standard Carrera, they're all PDK, because most people buy Carreras in PDK, most people buy Carrera T's in manual. But
I was going to say, if you want to, during the podcast, overlay this photo so as I describe it, people can follow along.
Yes.
So on the front end, you have the radiator inlet, and you have the Viper green car, and then the black plastic gloss.
Mm-hmm.
Black. That's gloss black, it was black on these cars, but the car was also black. So I don't know if it's trim or if it's actual part of the bodywork. But imagine where that is black gloss coming up higher to the headlight and being taller than the center section, and then being the top right. So basically the top corner, more square. So see how it kind of curves in towards the front end? It like
weird
is rounded. Imagine that squared.
What? Okay, so like a substantially bigger vent than this.
Yes.
Oh,
like,
wow. Okay.
The size is not larger. I just think that the opening is larger, if that makes sense. It's just more airflow without.
Right. So the duct wasn't sticking further out. It was just bigger.
It was sticking further out front to back, not left to right. So,
cool.
If you were to look at it from a top-down view, I think you would see the corners jutting out, as opposed to a front-end view looking the same or different.
Got it.
So, yes, folks, I think, Ben, for this episode, it would be awesome to call it 992.2 Spotted in the Wild. Because that kind of sounds like clickbait, but it's not.
It absolutely is. We're going to use it. No shame on that. Okay, so I have another Porsche question for you. So I don't know if you have access to our notes page at the moment.
I do. I'm looking at Taycan.
So you're looking at it, and there is a Taycan, Toucan, however you want to pronounce it, with a wing on the back.
Yes.
And this doesn't surprise us, because Porsche has a GT department. They make an electric car. It would make sense to make a GT version of it. So this is presumably some sort of Taycan GT product. It's got center locks on it. You can see it's got a bit wider wheels on it, redesigned front end, and it's got the wing on the back that looks like it's off of like a GT, like a 981 GT4. Yeah. It's not as big as an RS wing. So I saw someone Photoshop a picture of this though with the 992 GT3 RS wing on it, like crazy huge, and it's like taller than the.
Close this blind real quick. Give me 1 sec.
Go for it.
Continue.
I'll keep talking to the peoples. So this is a Taycan with center locks and a wing on the back, and you can see from the picture that should be on your screen now, there is a roll cage in this car.
Yeah.
Now this picture is on the Nürburgring. This car is coming out of the carousel, so it doesn't really surprise me that there's a cage in it. So we don't know.
They simply have to for the lap record attempts.
So the question is the cage? Are they going full Jag Project 8 and building a four-door car with a roll cage?
Wow.
Or is this simply for testing and it's a prototype mule? That's one of the questions. I think that it's going to be an option.
I think it's going to be a Taycan RS, probably, will be the model.
So the current names that have been thrown around.
Yes, and the turbo.
Right. So I saw Taycan GT, which made no sense to me, because you can buy a GTS. So I assume it's going to be a Taycan RS.
Yes.
It's just going to be called Taycan RS.
Yeah.
So I'm hoping to God they don't throw the GT3 or the GT4 badge on it. If they called it like GTE RS or something, I'd be totally fine with
The
that.
GTE4. What I wish they would call it is the Taycan Club Sport. That would
That'd be cool.
bring back the Club Sport moniker, Porsche, please.
Please. You throw heritage badges on everything else. Please come back.
Throw some Club Sport scripting up on the front fender or some shit and put one of those in like Riviera Blue. Are you kidding me,
Be
guys?
rad.
Sign me up.
So I think this is going to be super exciting. I kind of have a problem with track prep sedans. I think they're awesome, and I've yet to see one that I don't like.
Ben,
Like,
did you listen to our 2-car garage?
I did.
Peps sedans.
Yes. Well, as far as new ones, like old ones, it makes sense. Because old ones, it was.
GTAM.
So that's the car I was going to bring up. So the Alfa Romeo GTAM is like, on paper, is the dumbest car on the planet. Because like, why would you build a track prep sedan? And then I see one, and I'm like, yep, nope, that makes complete sense.
You're like, wait a minute. They're on something.
And then Jag XE Project 8, like I just mentioned. That I think that's probably the most extreme example of it.
I still can't believe I was on track with one of those at Coda for the DE.
Dude, it's crazy to me that we went to a DE and there was a 4GT Mark II and
Project 8
and a Project 8, and we spent more time looking at the Project 8.
Well, like, what track weekend does a GT2 RS not get attention? Like,
right.
Like,
so,
we're there and we're like, GT2 RS, 3 RS, GT4 RS's.
Not interested. Yeah.
Project 8.
Some dude bought a sedan. Yeah. So it shot flames. It was cool. But the Project 8, I don't think this will be as extreme as the Project 8, because a lot of people just think the Project 8 is an XE with a wing on it.
I think this car is not even going to be a race-focused car. I think it's just going to be a take-on that's got more power, more torque, and a smidge of aero.
I think what it's going to be is it's going to be a take-on that they handed to Andy Preuninger, and they were like, "Can you just make it better?
Well,
like,
so
don't fix everything, just make it better."
It has the front wheel fender vents like the GT4 RS has.
Right. So
I think it's going to be just an RS.
I think it's going to be an RS of some sort, and I'm assuming it's going to murder the Model S plaid on the Nürburgring.
Hopefully.
It has to. It's Porsche. They wouldn't like it. Even if like Tesla reset the record before this car debuts, Porsche would just go back to the drawing board and make it faster.
Which, as a reminder, make sure to drop a comment which car you think will have the faster Nürburgring time, the GT3 RS or the Ford Mustang GTD.
Oh my gosh, yes.
Because we should be getting that here soon. They unveiled a livery for it, which looks sick.
I hope we're getting that soon. I'm very interested. I'm slightly nervous.
So speaking of records, there is someone who holds a few records that I got to see yesterday.
Okay.
Ben knows because I texted him first, obviously.
Yes.
So I'm sitting, getting ready to board my flight from Phoenix Sky Harbor to
this
Dallas DFW. And I look up as Group 5 is boarding. I was Group 6.
Mm-hmm.
And this guy with wavy hair with a Black Rifle coffee hat is standing in line on his phone. And I'm not going to lie to you, I have never had my heart pound as hard as it did yesterday.
You've met some cool people.
I turned on.
You don't.
That's Travis fucking Pastrana.
Travis Pastrana.
I was like, he's right there. And I was like, do I get a photo? Like, but he was looking for his boarding pass. The line was moving. I was like, I'm not going to be that guy. And then I also didn't want to be like Travis Pastrana. And then everybody in the airport looked.
Then everyone's like, what? And then like he just gets mobbed by people.
So then I board the plane, right? And I'm walking by, and there's some overweight, trying to with their heavy luggage that won't be overhead, and they're just like, I'm gonna.
Of course, standard airplane stuff.
But it stopped, and I'm standing right there, and Travis
right next to Travis Pastrana, and you're just like trying your best not to fangirl.
And he has Spotify open, like trying to find music. If he didn't have earbuds, I would have just been like, Travis, it's a pleasure to meet you, and like shake his hand.
Right, hey, big fan, whatever. Yeah, done the thing. Right, like get his attention, and then it would have felt rude, and it'd been super awkward.
What's funny though is Andre told me that, and if in case listeners are wondering, Andre is the partnerships manager at Radford Racing School. Andre told me Travis was out at Radford yesterday he was off-roading a minivan.
And you were like,
track? No, but he was in like a Honda Odyssey minivan off-roading it. Like,
That sounds about right for Travis.
so then when we were at lunch, this older guy walks in. And when I say older, I only figured out he was older, but he looked like Travis Pastrana, like the wavy hair, trucker hat. And I was like, is that him? And then Andre turned to me, he goes, dude, if it was, I would have been like, Travis, listen, man, got to stop following us 3 times in 2 days. It'll like
The heck.
get grit.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, I got to see Travis Pastrana. And so the last 2 times I've been to the airport, Travis Pastrana and David Hobbs. So,
And then before that, Josh Aaron.
yes. So, well, that was actually the same trip. That was Milwaukee.
Oh, well, there you go.
Yeah. So
I was gonna say,
Hobbs going to my gate, and then at the gate, Josh Herron was there. So, anyways,
last time I was at an airport, I ended up sitting next to Scott Dixon, and I had the same moment that you did.
did you actually?
Yeah, I texted you about this when I was on my flight back from Le Mans.
I don't know.
I was on the same.
Sat next to him.
I didn't sit next to him, but we're going through customs
You
when we.
just said you sat next to him.
I said I stood next to him. So, whatever. I meant to say I stood next to him.
Play it now.
Cut it out. No, we get off the plane and we have to go through customs at Dulles in DC.
You're like, oh, Scott Dixon, there's some trips on the Barbie.
And I'm standing there and I'm wearing my Cadillac V Racing shirt, thankfully, because I bought shirts for all the teams, and thankfully I
Cadillac blue at Le Mans.
decided to wear my Cadillac shirt. And there's this guy standing next to me. And I'm like, holy shit, this guy looks familiar. But it's one of those things, if you ever run into a famous person, you don't want to be like, hey, you're like, hey, I'm a huge fan. But then it's like, who are you talking about? Like, I don't want them to not, I didn't want it to not be Scott Dixon. And then I'm super weird because I'm standing in a giant crowd of people. And everyone's like, why are you walking up to strangers asking if they're famous, dude? Like, what are you doing? So, like, it was weird because, I mean, I'm literally, like, standing shoulder to shoulder. Like, he's standing next to me, and I like looked over down to my right and like held my phone by my leg and like Googled Scott Dixon real quick because I pulled up a picture. I was like, yep, that's Scott Dixon. Cool.
Did you get a photo of Scott Dixon?
No, I didn't, because he went right past me because he had priority.
Was down by your leg, just turned it and angled it and snapped off.
Clink, just weird selfie from way down, like way too low, like the most awkward picture.
Man, why do you have a photo of your penis? It's Scott Dixon.
It's Scott Dixon. It's different. I swear.
You call it. Why'd you take the
photo? No, so he's standing right next to. I put my phone in my pocket or whatever, and I like looked up and like we walked forward a bit.
He looked up and he was like, ooh.
No, so like I put my phone in my pocket and I just like kept walking or whatever because we're trying to get like as far in this line as possible because we had a pretty short layover to get back to Texas. And I like look over at him at some point and he looked at my shirt and like we just like nodded and just like made eye contact and acknowledged each other. And I was like, good enough for me. And then he had like priority access and just like ran past everyone.
Like, Cadillac. Heard of him?
I've heard these dudes are pretty good, but like it was so weird though because I didn't know what to say because he got fourth, and it's like literally the worst possible place, and it's so bad though because I read his Instagram post like the next day, and it was like it's like fourth and second place are really the worst places you could finish a race, and I was like, man, I'm so glad I didn't, because like I wanted to be like, hey man, congrats,
great race.
Well, I didn't want to be, because I wanted to say, like, hey, congrats, because, like, you finished Le Mans, congrats, like, everyone crashed in that race, congrats, you finished the race or whatever, but I didn't want to be like, hey, congrats, and then he'd be like, I got fourth, like, I didn't want him to be, like, offended and still pissed off that he got fourth, and be like, no, but you finished, and, like,
you and said, he got fourth, you'd be like, you know what, never mind, I take it back, screw you.
You know, man, shame on you.
Take your IndyCar championships and go cry down under. All
yeah,
right.
so, like, it was one of those things, I was like, I don't know what to say to this person other than, like, hey, big fan, but, like, he knows that. I wanted to, like, acknowledge the whole Le Mans thing.
Right.
And it just didn't come up, and then he had priority boarding and just, like, ran past everyone because he's Scott Dixon, and he doesn't hang out with peasants.
Well.
True. Okay, and then one more Porsche thing, real quick.
Yes.
So, I don't know if you know this or not, but San Antonio has a new Porsche dealership.
Oh, where at?
It moved, so it's further north on it's actually just
it's not new, it's just moved.
It's moved, yes. It's the same ownership, but it's further north. It's like one exit south of UTSA Boulevard, by the way.
Oh, okay.
Like it's super close actually.
Motor cars is and Gun Honda or
yes, it's across the highway from them.
So on the west side.
Yeah.
Okay.
But like I never go down there, so I didn't notice this until I saw there was a building up there, and then there were some cars parked there. So I stopped by. There was a Dakar in the showroom.
Did you get a photo?
Yeah, I got pictures. I'll send them to you, and I'll put them in the showroom.
Send these to me already.
Because I wanted to wait till the show.
God, man,
I wanted.
no one's
I wanted.
seen Dakars. You've seen Dakars. I'm the only one that's actually seen a 959. But come on.
So I just sent them to you. It was actually they wouldn't let me open the door, which I was pissed about.
Yeah, Ben, you have to make a minimum of 6 figures to touch a Porsche. Come on.
I showed up in a Porsche Motorsport hat. I thought I gave myself an in.
Oh,
Dude, it's okay. Here's the thing. I'll be honest. Okay. Yes, it's very cool. It's kind of a lame spec. Like,
yes, but in the world of heritage liveries, just a white one,
like it's so cool though, because to like I was talking with this like the salesman that I was, because like I walked in and like, so for starters, what happened was I drove past it one day and I saw that it was open and I was like, oh, next time I come into class, I'll leave on my lunch break and go. So I like dressed up a little bit, wore some nicer clothes, put on my Porsche Motorsport, because like I wasn't gonna show up and
be suspicious. Don't. Hey, so what'd you do for the fact that you showed up in a 4th gen?
Everyone respects the 4th gen, so but like I pulled up and
like, yeah, I work at the Porsche dealership, but big 4th gen guy.
But so I walked in and like this young salesman like runs up to me, like he was probably your age, like super young guy.
You want financing? We can get you in a Porsche today.
Like he was like really excited or whatever, and I was like, oh, and he's like, hey, what can I help you with? And I was like, oh, I'm just new dealership open, whatever. I'm looking around, and apparently they had opened like a week or two before I'd went there, whatever. And there was the Dakar sitting in the showroom, and I was kind of hoping I was going to walk in and there was going to be a 3RS. I'll be honest. I didn't even have Dakar like on my brain because I've never seen a new 3RS before.
Well, I haven't either, but
I just kind of wanted to see one because they're cool, and I didn't even think about Dakar. Like I always forget about that car, and like I walk in, I open, and I'm talking to this dude, and I look to my left, and I'm like, this is the greatest day of my life. There's a Dakar over here, like because of the new 911s, it's the one that I would own. It's so cool.
Dude,
and so
this video of it is exactly why it's perfect.
It's perfect. And like the salesman was like, yeah, dude, I'll be honest, it's kind of a lame spec. The owner of the dealership spec'd it out, whatever. And he's like, and I know he bought it to sell it or whatever. So like it's white with like a generic black interior. Like it doesn't have inserts or anything or whatever. But I looked at it and I was like, honestly though, that's so like it's so understated, and it'd be one of those things of you could, for starters, it had the roof rack, which I was so excited about because it could have not had the roof rack, and then I probably wouldn't have noticed it. Like right. I would have walked around and then noticed, but I looked over and there's a 911 with a roof rack, and I'm like, holy shit, it's a Dakar. So I went and I walked around it. The sticker price, like the window sticker, was like $1 million or something stupid. I can't remember what it was. It was like it had crazy. It wasn't $1 million, but it had a crazy dealer markup on it. Because they were like, yeah, it's the first one we've ever had come through the dealership. So, but I kind of like the white because I
the first or second one in San Antonio.
Probably I haven't
in Austin.
Right, I've been consistently going to the Cars and Coffees, hoping to see a Dakar or a new 3RS. That's why I've been going.
Instead, there's stupid Chiron Pierce.
There's one-off Bugatti Chirons, and I'm pissed about it. I want to see a Dakar.
Isn't that just the perfect summation of Porsche?
Yeah.
No matter what, the 911 is still the car that
I went looking for a car that you can order at a dealership, and it's like no. This car costs as much as a dealership.
This car was custom ordered by the Prince of Qatar, and I want to see a Dakar.
Actually, technically, the Chiron was ordered by Shannon, but anyway.
Speaking,
very nice lady though.
Cars that a lot of people don't care about.
Yes,
Mecum. Ben, I'm going to send you a few photos if you want to post. You're more than welcome to. You don't have to.
I absolutely will.
Sending over some photos of of my favorite rides from Mecum Dallas.
Yes, because we have boots on the ground at Mecum.
Yes,
in the form of Nicholas Patty.
I didn't even get to walk around. This is just the coolest cars in the vicinity of our booth. There is a black on black and red GT2 RS Weissach edition.
Oh, so good.
Oh, so sexy. There's a McLaren Speedtail, which I had never seen in person. And let me tell you something. It is a long car.
I feel like, so a Speedtail...
Long.
A Speedtail is one of those cars that, like, we've talked about, I'm sure. Like, it's come up at some point. Like, hey, McLaren came out with a center seat car that's... Yeah, like, they came out with this crazy car. It's beautiful. It's fantastic. It's like crazy technology, hybrid, center seat, whatever. And then like that's the last we talked about it because it's like you and I will never see a Speedtail. Like they're gonna like they made 106 of them.
Yeah.
Cool. Like we'll never see one.
Yep.
So like it's one of those things that you forget about. It's not even on your brain. Whereas like I went to Cars and Coffee looking for a Dakar or a 3RS.
We walked in through the vendor doors, and literally it's sitting smack dab inside the door, and I was like,
yeah. If you go to the Mecum website, it is the first thing on their website.
But it's like when you see a celebrity, you're like, it's familiar, but I can't say that I've seen it. I'm like, I know you, but I don't know you.
Right.
My favorite car in the immediate vicinity. So keep in mind, there were two 4GT.
I hate to interrupt, but the interior on this Speedtail is fantastic. Go ahead. Sorry.
There was a line, R35 GTR, GT2 RS Visoc, two 05 GTs, a Viper SRT10, an 08, and then a 3RS, all in a line. But the car that caught my eye over all of those was a Go Mango Orange Dodge Charger King Daytona, one of their last call line, with 19 miles on it.
Damn.
All the plastic on the interior, hood pins, the silver wheels, orange calipers. So sexy.
I'm just scrolling through their stuff here, and it looks like they have a lot of the kind of last call Mopars. I saw Jailbreaks. I saw Superstock. I know that Superstock isn't one of the last call ones, but it's one of the ends.
Yeah.
So yeah, they got some rad stuff in here. Another Jailbreak.
So those were the couple of the coolest cars. The last thing I wanted to mention is, I think for this episode, and then I promise I will shut up. But ladies and gentlemen, I am now SCCA licensed and IMSA licensed. Which
yes.
Super cool. But
round of applause for Mr. Patty.
Thank you. I'll have to send you some videos because I hit the... So I'm competing next year in the 24 Hours of Lemons at Sears Point with Brendan Bielefeld and BJ Zacharias. So...
two drivers of similar status. They're right up there now. I often get the two of them confused.
As you would. Listen, they both love to eat and drink, so in my book, they're the same. But
yep, them and dogs, they're right up all the same.
Have him on the podcast because he was telling a bunch of funny stories, and I think we should have a story hour with BJ Zacharias.
We could do that,
but we're going to be running in Lemons, and so that's going to be fun. Obviously,
perfect.
A clutch dump car, but we were doing autocross on the final day, final session. And we walked out, and he was like, all right, 800 horsepower, traction control off, knock yourself out, one last run. And I turned to him, and I was like, I don't think I'm going to try to set a time on this one. And he was like,
you're like, I'm going to be honest. I don't think that's going to work for me.
He was like, why not? And I was like, do it for Dale. And I kid you not, as I put it in first gear and released the clutch and pulled away, I heard him yell back, do it for Dale. And I was like, oh my God.
Either he yelled it back or Nick was just hearing things.
And listen, I will say this. I had never put any car in a drift in my life, okay? Like, I'm not going to act like I'm some fiend behind the wheel when it comes to anything that isn't kind of precision driving. Drifting, drag racing, none of that. I can't do any of it. I'm dog trash, right? Well, we spent one day doing autocross where you had to get that induced oversteer and then drift through it to get the fastest time.
Yep.
And Ben, I destroyed a set of rear tires.
Oh, yeah.
First of all, I didn't loop the car ever, period, throughout the entire weekend.
That's impressive. It's easy to do in one of those.
I'm not going to lie. I was so proud of because I was slinging it around and like on the track, it was traction control, like 80% off.
Right.
We had it.
The off that isn't off. Yeah.
You're right. So I was, and it's a manual, right? So I'm revving it out to red line in third gear, dumping the clutch. There's onboard coming, by the way, because I got an hour of onboard GoPro footage.
Perfect.
The other sick thing is, ladies and gentlemen, I got to drive the track that Ayrton Senna tested the Penske IndyCar at in the 90s.
Yeah, it's pretty rad.
It's one of my favorite tracks I've ever driven, and I thrashed the Hellcat around there. Like,
Perfect.
I just can't wait for the onboard, dude. Like,
It's about all they're good for.
I revved a Hellcat out to what? It was like $7,000, 6,800 maybe.
I think they're like 6,800, 65, 6,800.
Up into third with a Tremec. Like,
Is that trans still as good as you remember?
so much worse. Here's why. Because
Really? I've never, for starters, for context for the people.
For starters, the linkage, none of it has been fixed, upgraded, or replaced since the car was new. It's a 2019.
Ooh, that car's been beat.
You have 25,000 miles of auto enthusiasts in. I can drive a manual around.
Yeah, absolutely. Yep. Slamming gears as hard and as fast as they can.
I go. I mean, I'm him. I get in the car, right, for the first time. BJ's standing outside. What do? Depress the clutch. Like, sweet.
Perfect.
Pick up, release the clutch, stalls. And I'm like,
Yes. What?
that wasn't neutral? Like, I'm not kidding you guys. I got a full, like, fist.
Oh, that's... Oh no.
First, and I went, yep, that's neutral. And guys, I've dailied a manual for years now, okay? I'm not just...
Oh my gosh.
It was floppy. And so I was like...
Oh, that poor car.
So the amount of times I was like, oh, I'm going from 110 in third. I'm going to heel toe down into second. Why is it at 400 RPM? Oh, that's fourth. Oh. Okay.
Yeah. Okay, so for context, the only new Mopars I've driven are Mr. Patty, my co-host's old Charger. And that was an auto, and then I've driven a new Challenger Superstock, which is also an auto. Right. So of the new Mopars, I've only driven the 8-speed cars, the 8 HP 70s and the 8 HP 90s. However, I've driven new old Mopars, right? Just because of where I work. Like, we've got a 69 Roadrunner that's got a 392 and a TR6060 in it, and that transmission is rad. It's also because it has 200 miles on it.
I will say the clutch in the Hellcat Red Eye is probably my favorite clutch I've felt.
Because
super stiff, but also just overall shorter travel.
Oh, cool. Yeah.
I may have driven what all the car people listening and be like, doesn't know anything about cars. What's the upgrade?
It's true, he doesn't.
It's not a dual. Is it dual? Not mass flywheel.
Twin disc.
Twin disc. Thank you. If I've driven a twin disc, I haven't consciously known.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know if they've upgraded to a twin disc clutch on this either. But it's what I would imagine a twin disc feeling like when people say that it's a really heavy.
That car was a Red Eye.
Yeah, Red Eye. Hellcat Red Eye. Yeah.
Challenger. They might have.
It was the TR6060. I just don't know what the clutch is on it.
They might have.
I wouldn't be surprised though with 800 horsepower them having to upgrade the clutch. So.
They come standard with a twin disc clutch.
Okay, so then that's exactly what it was.
Yeah.
So good. It was so much nicer because I got to the Porsche and I was just like,
poof. Yeah, you just like take it through the floorboard.
I did go in autocross. Fun fact, I did in autocross have the brake pedal go to the floor. So
yeah, they do that.
That was fun.
By the way, that's not that specific car. That's all of them.
No, yeah.
That's all Mopar products.
No, but I'll say this. So on the main track, I got within a second of what I was 1.3 seconds off of BJ Zacharias' time. Like 10 out of 10 effort.
That is impressive.
I was just over a second off, which isn't to say like, oh, BJ's fallen off. BJ
It's not saying Nick Patty is BJ Zacharias, but
no, yeah,
in this instance,
because a second and a third is a shit ton of time. But on a 1.5 mile track with 11 turns, I didn't lose more than a second and third.
That's impressive.
So that was really encouraging because I'm learning the track. I'm learning a new car. The cool thing is BJ did pull out data for us. So we got full
That's cool
stuff, and we got to break down in the data. So I originally was a 1.6 seconds off, then I shaved another 0.3 to get to 1.3. Then around the west track, which is the track Senna drove, I was 0.8 off. So all in all, I was really, really happy with
sick
and everything. And then it was after all that, BJ was like, I will run lemons if y'all will get a Fiero and small block swap it. So we're going to get a Fiero, and then Brendan is going to go find a junkyard 5.4 LS and then dump it in the Fiero. And then we'll try to race for 24 hours.
I'm about it. And y'all will have a white trash C8 Corvette.
Oh, dude. Doing a Corvette racing livery? Oh,
dude, you should. You should put it in the C8 in the livery, in the current C8 livery.
And then we got to come up with a pun for instead of Pratt Miller, it's just some innuendo.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We'll work on that. That'll happen.
We'll brainstorm.
But I'm just saying though, if you're gonna have a mid-engine GM product, because I've seen it the other way. I've seen, by the way, there's a C8 Corvette that I've seen in Bernie, San Antonio, and that its license plate is Fiero. Like, people do the joke the other way.
Yeah.
Because the only other mid-engine car, Corvair was rear engine. Just making sure I covered myself from the internet. No, I'm just making sure.
Was
the internet is
rear engine or mid-engine?
Corvair was rear engined.
Okay, that's right.
Yeah, which is terrifying because people LS swap them. That's a horrible idea. But I've seen on the internet Corvair, and I've seen in person Fiero. So that'd be pretty good. But you should do like a C8 Corvette livery. That'd be so good.
Would be do a spray.
And you gotta go to like eBay and buy C8 Corvette like logos
and taillights.
And then put them on. No, but just take the logos and put them on the car upside down. Like, just obviously you're making fun of it. Just like do everything way wrong. Like that'd be so good.
Yeah.
I like that. This is a good idea.
I'm all on board. But ladies and gentlemen, I talked a lot and I apologize. But
that's fine. It was a good episode. It's exciting. Nick is sort of kind of a race car driver.
Sort of, kind of. I will say this.
More of a race car driver than he was 2 weeks ago.
Oh, so here's the other thing. So the scoring system for your grade is on a 5 scale.
Okay.
One person in all of Bob Bondurant School of High Performance Driving has gotten a 5.
His name was Michael Schumacher. No, sorry, who was it?
Mrs. Bondurant, obviously.
Oh, sure.
The next highest score was a 4.9.
Okay.
And it was given to Rick Mears.
Okay.
The average is 2.2.
Jesus.
You want to know what mine is?
2.1.
3.8.
That is you should be proud of that. Well done, sir.
I'm so proud of it. I'm trying to maintain my excitement, but fuck, dude.
the years of Turbo Cup.
This without coming across as a prick. Like,
no, you should be proud of yourself. Well done. So I've done the same thing after the track days with the boys, is we all compare lap times, and like when you're faster than the guy standing next to you, when you're faster than the guy next to you, try not to be like, like freak out about it. You just got to be like, hey man, I was feeling good the last session. Like, you got to like play it off or whatever.
I had fresh tires. There was
right. Yeah. It's definitely not like I weigh like 40 pounds more than you, but whatever.
It's kind of surreal because it's really hit me. Like, once I got that, I was like, there is actually nothing in my way other than kind of money and time. Like,
yeah.
Which, no, I know are big things, but like, when I was a kid,
most of racing these days, by the way.
It's when I was a kid, right? And for all of us that grew up as race fans and wanted to become a race car driver, when I was a kid,
by the way, is everyone listening to this podcast?
Right. When I was a kid, the biggest roadblock to becoming a race car driver is my parents didn't want to spend the money to send me to get my racing license.
Right.
Because I'd done the go-karting, I'd won, all that stuff.
Right.
And it was like, well, you can't go Porsche Club racing unless you have a race license. To do
Right.
Ds and get licensed, you have to do years worth. And
Right.
so I remember my parents shopping around, Bondurant, Skip Barber, all this stuff. And, oh no, it's just too expensive. Even if we did, what car are you going to drive? And so
Right.
it was really fulfilling. Like, I almost got emotional to, like, tearing up after I had gotten it because I'm like, this is something I've wanted for literally 10 years. And I never thought I'd be able to get it. And now I have it. Not only do I have it, but I kind of exceeded my... Because going into it, I'm like, yeah, I've done track weekends. But at the end of the day, that doesn't mean anything. Like, keep an open book, blah, blah, blah. And I'm not going to lie. I know I work for Radford. I learned more than I ever thought I could have.
Yeah, you, like...
70% of what I was doing in the DEs, having been instructed that way, was not the way to be doing it.
Yeah.
And so it's... My eyes have well and truly been opened, but getting to work there and getting the class and getting the exposure and getting to do that stuff, and I have 2 days of F4 stuff coming up at some point,
which is gonna be rad.
I'm not gonna,
I'm supremely jealous of that one. I will be honest.
I almost don't want to.
Why? I'll fly out if you don't want to. I'll take your spot.
Because you can't rail brake in them.
Well, you can't. You can, just differently. Because downforce.
Well,
dude, you have to experience a downforce car. You have to.
Do you know how many people have wrecked F4s at the school?
So many. I bet you it's really easy to do.
See, I've watched enough Seinfeld to know when to leave on a high note, and I'm like, I got a 3.8 score for my license.
Yep.
I could wreck an F4 car, and none of it matters.
Right. You could get a 3.9 in your F4 2 days. So
that's also true. But
who knows?
I think that's gonna do it for me for this episode. Ben, are there any other things, any closing thoughts you feel are worth mentioning?
No, I think that about sums it up. I think this is a really good episode. I quite enjoyed it. Always fun to do Two Car Garage, talk Porsches. Stay tuned to the Instagram. Stay on the Instagram. Like Nick said at the top of the show, go follow us at the Clutch Dump. I'll be making sure to post any pictures that Nick sends me from Mecum. Any cool stuff. I'll let y'all know when Nick buys a Speedtail and all that fun stuff. And but like Nick said at the top of the show, whatever audio platform you're listening to us on, make sure you go give us a follow. Make sure you subscribe. Leave a rating and a review if you can. If you're watching this on the YouTubes, make sure you subscribe. Make sure you like and share the video. Comment down below several things. What your two-car garage would be for the St. Mary's Trophy. What you think of the new 992.2 test mules, what you think they're going to be, what cars we're going to see, do you think they're going to be hybrids, etc. And then also, of course, once again, what you think is going to be faster, GT3 RS or GTD. It's very exciting. There is no wager on it, but it's pretty good. But there could be. It's quite intense. But make sure to stay tuned for all of that, and make sure you stay tuned for very soon, episode 77 of the Clutch Dump. But that's going to do it from us here. We'll see you next time.